I'm going to feel really stupid if I don't have any sound because I forgot a little cable. I couldn't find it. Whatever. It's hot, y'all. Pretty close to 100 degrees. I'm sitting in the shade, but there's no breeze. I've been fishing about 4.5 hours. Caught a few fish. We're going to talk about some stuff today. We're going to talk about big plastic worms. Toad sucker worms, like that. I'll be right back. I'm Dale Verts. Old school fishing talk right here. Like I said, I've been fishing a little over 4 hours. Brutal hot. There's a breeze on the main lake. I don't know why I lose my voice when I'm fishing. I ain't figured that out. That didn't used to happen. I've had plenty to drink. I ain't had nobody else to talk to. I ain't used up my voice today. But one thing I just got done doing about 2 hours of just flipping and pitching the gnarliest lily pads and brush I could fish. Never got one bite. That would have been cool to show y'all what I want to talk about. I'm only 2 months late on this video, kind of, and that is talking about fishing 10, 12-inch plastic worms, which is basically a summertime thing. I'll talk about that in a minute. The big worm will catch small fish. It catches a lot of big bass, too. I've been doing this for a lot of years. I've caught big bass on the big worms in fairly clear water, pretty stained water, definitely at night in the clear water. And it's an art. I don't see a lot of people doing it. It's not just a southern thing, I don't think. Today I was flipping and pitching the lily pads in a thick milfoil grass, some brush, some lay down stuff, with a 1/2 ounce slip sinker pegged old school, the toothpick, 50-pound braid, a big hook. I'm laughing because there's a video here just a while back by a famous bass fisherman. I'm not going to name names. He's a better fisherman than I am. Who says don't ever use more than a 3/0 hook. Well, I don't believe that at all with the big worms. But also, the other thing everybody's doing, and I did a pretty in-depth deal 2 years ago. I did some videos about it. The modern hook is this wide gap. It used to be the 95 JB Eagle Claw, but it's a wide gap, or extra wide gap, big old worm hook. And y'all, I've tried that straight shank flipping hook. I tried it a bunch. It did not work for me. I missed fish. I lost more fish on it. Now, I've heard all kinds of arguments, but I tried 2 summers ago. I don't think it was last year. Anyway, I did videos about it. And I consistently lost more fish and missed more hookups with that straight shank hook. Now, I still got some in my box there. I like a wide gap hook. Now, that's just a 5/0. Most time a 5/0 gets spiked, I have 6/0 and I have 7/0. When I'm flipping heavy stuff and the fish are biting big, I'm going to put a big hook in them. I want to get some meat. I want to reach back into the bone. That's kind of a quick critique. I don't know why you'd use a little bitty hook. Now, basically, when a bass bites a plastic worm, any bait, they go for the head. They know intuitively to hit the front of the bait. That's where the kill is. Don't always happen, I guess. I'm going to use the wide. I'm going to use the wide gap hook. Let me know what y'all are thinking. What are y'all doing on any kind of plastic worm or creature bait thing? What are you doing? I'm going to stick with my wide gap, and I'm going to use a big hook with a big bait. With very few, really just one. Just one? Yeah, just with one, for instance, difference. I'm fishing these things in the summertime in hot water. Until the water temperature gets consistently 80 degrees all over the lake, it don't work as well. I've caught plenty of big bass earlier, but what happens is they bite it, they don't get it. They yank on it, they're not there when it comes. I mean, you'd swear it was the biggest brim in the lake hitting it, but it's not. It's bass. It makes fish bite that maybe don't want to bite regular, but they don't bite it good enough. 80 degrees across the board. 90 is fine. I've caught them 100-degree water a couple of times in my life. Oh, yeah. For instance, it's a little bit different. The one thing is, come fall, late September, early October, when the fish get on a boat dock bite, and that's about it for me, a boat dock bite, in 5 to 7 foot of water, maybe a little bit of watercolor, I will have a 10-inch worm ready to go. Not a 12, a 10, just like that, a ribbon-tailed worm. There's something about it. It's a big fish thing only that time of the year. I'll have one and I'll flip docks with it, pitch it in the boat wells, and it's not a limit thing. It's a big fish thing. Other than that, hot weather through mid-September, usually in Missouri, late June. I always push it every year. I try too early. Late June, early July, so it's a 2-month deal, and at night. And I'm telling you what, y'all, this needs to be part of your arsenal if it's not. For next year, maybe. I'm throwing these things on no jack round heavy tackle. Generally, my old round reels, because the lower gear ratio gives me power. I'm not going to argue that point. That works for me, whatever works for you. This is 50-pound Power Pro braid. I don't see any difference in different braids. It's always been good for me. Used to be a reasonable price till COVID come along. This is a 7.5 foot heavy action Dobyns Fury flipping stick. 7.5, 8 foot flipping rods. So I throw them on mostly a heavy pitching rod. 7 foot rod will work fine. Night fishing, whatever. But I'm just not going to jack around. I would never throw it on with flipping for less than 50-pound braid. I flipped one on another rod today with 20-pound monofilament, but this is my preferred way to do it. There's just no point in throwing there's no reason to throw any sissy tackle. This is not a sissy fish bait. Plastic worms. There's a bunch of companies still make these things. The first one I ever used was an Alron. It was made here at Truman Lake. It was Al Dunning and Ron Williams. It was a really nice bait. It wasn't a real pretty bait the way it was made, but it was a fish catching son of a buck, and that was back 85, 86. This one I fished today mostly is a Mr. Twister, a hog 10 they call it. 10-inch ribbon tail. Now I do like it's a little bit bulkier body than some. I like that bulk. I like that mass. Here is a Bitters baits, and really, truthfully, there's not a lot of difference in the baits. Okay, it's also a 10-inch. It does not have quite as fine a tail as a Mr. Twister, but nobody does. It's more of a U tail. Mr. Twister is a better ribbon tail, but still, I've caught a load of bass on the Bitters. They're fine. They were really reasonable price before COVID too. I swore over the years this is my favorite worm, and then I get away from it, and I forget about it. I ain't thrown one this year. Of course, I ain't thrown very many 10-inch worms this year, or 12-inch worms. And the 12-inch worm is the same deal. I don't care when it's like this, when it's 100 degrees out, 80-something degree water. I don't care which one I'm throwing. I'll change up. I got all them bags you see in my screenshot, my thumbnail, that thumbnail. I've got 20 bags of worms, and probably 5 or 6 of them are 12 inches. This one here, and this one is a custom made one by Doc Irv. He doesn't do these anymore. The ringworm. Man, y'all, I have swore about this bait over the years. Tremendous bait. Really fine tail on this one, a W. It reverses on itself. They're not very strong. They come apart easier. Of course, the thing about a big plastic worm, as you use them up, you can make them a smaller plastic worm, but they'll still have that bulk. I've used them all the way down to a 6-inch worm and still have a great worm out of them. So you don't throw them away as quick. You get a little extra run time out of them. That bait, especially at night, and I've got 4 packs in the boat right now. The old ringworm. Man, I don't know why I get away from it and go back to it. Another one that I like, I haven't thrown this year. Here's a 12 or 14, I think it's 12-inch. And that's that gator tail, like I talked about. It's my favorite, and a 6-inch worm. It's a generic. I don't know anybody that's making this worm right now. Ones I've got, it's what I've got. That is a Haas. Great suspended fish bait, which truthfully, a lot of these big worms, that's why I fish for suspended fish with them. The only other worm I didn't get out, and maybe my favorite of all, is a Berkley power worm. Something magic about that power worm sometimes, especially early in July, it seems like. I became a believer in that power worm a long time ago. Unfortunately, I was fishing. The last tournament I fished in the old era, about 2002, a guy taught me to fish a night tournament. 4th of July weekend in Lake Ozarks. Freaking ridiculous. We caught a limit, and I caught all 5 of my fish that night on a power worm. And I left my tackle on his boat, never got it back. About 20 pounds of power worms and 3 or 4 rods, never got it back. I still see that guy from time to time. He knows he don't look at me. Never got that tackle back. How's that for sad? Got colors on these things. You know, come on, man. Color. I fished this worm more the last couple hours than any other one. It's a crab apple. It's kind of a root beer red with a green flake. Just a pretty standard, cool color for this time of the year. Truthfully, the purples, grapes, electric blue, red tinges, and some sort of green. Well, I mean, there's 2 green ones right there. I've got red shad. I've got solid black. Pretty much, I'm colors just wear me thin too. I got all these colors just like you do. Shades. Trying to match watercolor, sun conditions. Those lily pads are actually kind of dark underneath. That crab apple is hard to beat, as the electric blue. Whatever. Just your favorite color worms that you use other baits will work in these also. Don't get shook up on color. We all do. I've got thousands of lures in hundreds of colors. 4 or 5 colors would probably do me for the rest of my life. Yeah, probably. I said I like fishing for suspended fish. Not your typical drop shot, swimming at small sissy bait, FFS fishing. No. In cover, suspended. Brush piles, suspended. Standing timber is my favorite. I may go to trimming this week, and I'll fish for suspended fish with this big worm. It's just the thing. The fish may be 10 foot deep, over 30 foot of water, but that's suspended fish. Now, I like a little bit of watercolor for suspended fish. I like to see a couple foot. That puts them a little higher in the water column and keeps them more available, more accessible. These lily pad fish, a lot of times will be 8 foot of water. They'll only be down 2 or 3 foot underneath the pads. However, that being said, I like to use a heavy weight. Besides getting through the thick cover, I want that worm to fall quick. Generally, unless the fish tell me different. That's a whole other set of stories. I want it falling through them quick. I want them not to have much chance. I want them to have to grab it. Plus, say you're in 25, 30 foot of water and you put a worm into a brush pile and it quits falling early, you pretty much know. They'll come out, and the strikes are very aggressive on a heavy weight. Sometimes a lighter weight works better. You get a cloudy day in the summertime and you fish the same stuff you'd fish if it was sunny, but those fish aren't quite as tight, a smaller weight, and swim in this thing. I mean, just throw it out and just crank it back slow. 4, 5, 6, 7 foot deep. It's only worked a few times in my life, but when it's worked with some of the biggest fish in the summertime. The fish will get more on the limbs of big trees. If you've got trees that have limbs underneath the water, they'll get out underneath those limbs on those cloudy days, and you swim that worm. Oh, I tried it with a jig and I've caught fish doing it, but not the big fish I do on the big worm. Boat dock, same way. 1/8 ounce weight, toss it out, let it sink down 10 foot, swim it back. It's kind of crazy. It's not something you do every day, but it's something that works real well. Suspended fish, heavy weight, you want falling quick through them, you want to give them no chance, they got to open their mouth up and bite it. That makes sense, y'all? So I'm about 2 months late doing this video. Maybe store this away for next year. Except I'll have a flipping rod on the deck in October with a big worm on it if the fish get on the docks. For me, it's a dock thing. And I will lay this worm back in boat wells, especially, fish around some brush with it for that one bite. It's a call bite. It's not a limit bite. Not very often anyway. If you're throwing a spook and throwing a square bill and everything's cool and you hit that one spot where everything's perfect, you'll throw this thing in there and you'll get a 5-6 pound fish. It makes it all worthwhile. That's all I got. I'm losing my voice. Don't know why. It's really hot. I told you that. Talking for 98 to 100 degrees today, and it's definitely 96, 98 right now. I only fished about 4 hours, but that's good enough. I'm hurting, but I'm not hurting as bad as I would be if I was pushing it. I'm going to go to the house and cool off a little bit. Maybe have me some sweet tea. Sound good? A lot of ice. Thank y'all for watching. Solar bat, always link in the description. I've been wearing my RB2s today in the mossback green. The absolute perfect glass for a 2-foot visibility water with a bright sky. Perfect glass for that. Oh my gosh, and they don't weigh anything. God bless. Big worms. Solar bat glasses and big worms. Don't get no better than that. Bye, y'all.